Once upon a time, in a remote village far from town, there lived an old man. He was a hard-working farmer and he owned many possessions, including land and many livestock. The old man had 3 daughters and no sons. They all lived happily in their village. His daughters were beautiful and were the pride of his life. Everyone loved and adored the old man's daughters. Among the old man's many possessions were 17 donkeys. Although the old man was a successful farmer, the donkeys were his main source of income. This is because the donkeys were his medium of transporting his goods to the market to sell. The donkeys also took the entire village's goods to the market because the market was inside the township, quite far away from the village. The old man's daughters took charge of the donkeys and collected their fares, which they brought back to their father every evening. One day, sadly, the old man passed away. He had left his will, and in his will he left all his assets to his 3 daughters. After the funeral ceremony, the old man's 3 daughters read his will. Their father divided all his property equally among the 3 of them. But when it came to his 17 donkeys, he did something very odd. While their father had divided all his other property into 3 equal parts, he divided the 17 donkeys in a different way. The donkeys could not be shared equally among the 3 daughters because 17 is an odd number and also a prime number. Prime numbers cannot be divided except by 1 or themselves. The old man stated that the eldest daughter will have half of the 17 donkeys, and the middle daughter will get 1/3 of the 17 donkeys, and the youngest daughter, who is the old man's favorite child, will get 1/9 of the donkeys. The daughters were puzzled after they read the will because they could not understand how they could correctly share the donkeys as their father had instructed. It was not possible to divide the 17 donkeys and give half to the eldest one and also divide it accordingly for the last 2 daughters. They spent several days thinking of ways to divide the donkeys as it was stated in the will. But after a month, no one could figure out the correct way or method to share the animals. The daughters finally decided to consult the king of their village about their huge predicament. The king was a wise man and he thought for a while and finally found a solution. He ordered that all the 17 donkeys be brought to him. The daughters headed all 17 donkeys to the palace. The king asked for 1 donkey from his own flock to be brought in, and he added it to the old man's animals, bringing the total number to 18. Then the king asked the first daughter to read the will. According to the will, the eldest daughter owns half of the entire donkeys. The king counted 9 donkeys and gave them to her. The half of 18 donkeys is 9 donkeys. The remaining donkeys were 9. Next, the king asked the second daughter to read the will. According to the will, she owned 1/3 of the total donkeys. The king counted 6 donkeys and gave them to her. 1/3 of 18 donkeys is 6 donkeys. The remaining donkeys were 3. Finally, the king asked the last daughter to read the will. According to the will, she owned 1/9 of the total donkeys. The king counted 2 donkeys and gave them to her. 1/9 of 18 donkeys is 2 donkeys. The remaining donkeys were 1. The 3 daughters had 9, 6, and 2 donkeys, respectively, and the total number of donkeys were 17, which was the original number of donkeys owned by the old man. In this way, the wise king shared the donkeys according to the will left by the old man. After the day came to an end, the king happily took back his 1 donkey and brought it back to his herd. The wise king solved this huge problem with great intelligence, and the old man's daughters, as well as the entire village, were very pleased and fulfilled. This shows that when a little wisdom is applied, every problem has a solution.